What do we know in general? We know that similarity is the biggest source of liking and attraction that psychology has ever documented, okay? We like people who like us. Birds of a feather flock together is true. Opposites attract has no empirical support whatsoever. So the advantage that we have when we're negotiating with somebody who is demographically similar to us is that they are similar to us. But it's also true that the similarity doesn't have to be relevant to the conversation to work, and just because it should be obvious to everybody doesn't necessarily mean that it's salient. So when we negotiate, if there are things that unite us, it is always a good idea to draw those things out. He said, if you are a golfer and you ever see a hole-in-one trophy, you know two things absolutely have to be true. There has to be a heck of a story behind the trophy, behind the hole-in-one, and the guy behind the desk is dying to tell you what it is. So he says to him, tell me about your hole-in-one. And they exchange stories. So this story ends in such a cliched way. Let's say they set aside an hour for the meeting. These two guys spend the first 55 minutes talking about golf. By that point, they're friends, okay? So whatever problem and fight they were about to have at the 0-minute mark has now gone away at the 55-minute mark. And they're like, oh, we got 5 minutes. How are we gonna solve this? They come up with some resolution and they're on their way. Now, I love that story. And the reason I love that story is not to tell you to talk about golf, okay? And it's not to say that everything is gonna end that easily for you. But what was important about that story was that he had a strategy of always going in to try to figure out what unites us. And if something unites us, I'm gonna highlight that thing. It does not matter that that has nothing to do with the conversation at hand, because as soon as you realize that you are like me in some way, we are gonna get along a little bit better, and that is going to advantage us. And so the fact that you are demographically similar to a woman, I think does give us a starting point to talk about all kinds of things that make us similar, that would be harder to talk about if we were talking about a man. And I would say do that. But it has to be genuine. The other point I make about the story is that I don't talk about golf because I don't really care about golf. And any strategy you ever use is guaranteed to fail you if your audience perceives it as a strategy. So it has to come from a real place, but there's all kinds of things that unite us. So that's one of the things I would say from a research perspective says, let's think about, don't assume that they're obvious. Like, of course you know that we come from the same group or we went to the same school or we did those things. Talk about those things because when those things are salient, they help quite a bit.